All right, Isaac Harris. We stopped on this question. This is from from Isaac Morris on Apple Podcasts. Submit a 5-star Apple Podcast review
How
question.
do you spell Isaac?
The correct way.
Thank you.
Submit a 5-star Apple Podcast review question. We will answer it on the show. His question said, I listen every day, even after a bad loss. Appreciate what you guys do and the joy you do it with. Here's my question. What is the tipping point for this team to become a contender? Is it another all-star level player? That is an incredible question because I think it takes us to where we are right now with KP. Is he that other all-star level player? And we're going to talk about his standing in the all-star conversation in a second here. But Kristaps Porzingis has to be that type of player for the Mavericks to become a contender. The Mavericks are not right now. They're not a contender right now. They're not in that next level with, Brooklyn, Milwaukee, the Suns, and the Warriors right now. But for them to get to that level, it has to be consistent Porzingis and Porzingis that plays, right? The Porzingis that stays on the court. And so that's why it seems at times we've been hard on him or we hold him to a different standard. Because we do. Guy's making $30 million a year. He wants to be that second star. He wants to step up in that. He holds himself to an even higher standard than we do, I think. Listen to him talk after games. But I think that's what it boils down to, is for them to become a real contender, he has to be an all-star level player. He has to be shooting well from three. He has to be hitting his mid-range shots. He has to be, playing, basically, right?
Yeah.
Like he has to be doing all those things that we've been talking about all year.
It's the consistency and it's the health. And he has to be consistently the second guy on the team. It can't be, in my opinion, we can't be having the conversation of that we've had the past 2 seasons of, well, who's the second best player on the team? Tim Hardaway? I feel like we had like a half conversation about that last year. And then, this year, Jalen Brunson. Is Porzingis that guy? It's like, it has to be a definitive Kristaps Porzingis is the second best player on this team. End of conversation, period. And it just hasn't been that. He has to take it up even a little bit higher than what he's at now. Because even looking at a health angle, and this comes with the consistency of it. You look at the health angle. Before COVID, he had played 26 out of 35 games. If you just do the on pace for that.
Before he was specifically in the health and safety protocols this
exactly.
season.
Yeah, he had played 26 out of the 35 games for the Mavs. On pace for the rest of the season, you're looking at around 60 games played out of 82 for Porzingis. So that's around 22, 23 games missed of the season. You go back to last year, he missed around 30 games last season. So I think the Mavericks they have to ask themselves is, can we be a title contender team? Can we win a title with Kristaps Porzingis averaging, missing an average of 20 games a year and our second player being a big man? Because you start breaking down the rosters of these, the good teams over the past few years, the Suns with Booker and Chris Paul, and even the Bucks with Middleton and Holiday and Giannis and all this stuff. You look at the teams who have all of their stars on the perimeter versus the teams who have a top 1 or 2 guy on their team who is basically a big man, a 7-footer. So that's the question they have to ask themselves. And if they think they can do it, then hats off. But Porzingis has to be an all-star guy. He has to be the definitive number 2 on the team. And I think the answers to that, whether he is right now, would probably vary among fans and media and whoever.
I'll even take that title contender teams a step further. I think that the only teams with really good, like the only teams with all-star like level big men, the big man is the best player, right? Like none of them are the second best player is a big man. Now, maybe that's just coincidence because of the way the league is and the talent in the league right now, but it's also maybe coincidence for a reason, right? That the second best player on none of the title teams are big men, centers. Because the best teams in the league, it's like Jokic, he's the best player. Embiid, he's the best player. Towns, he's the best player. They're not at that level, but there's just not many teams out there that have the second best player is, a big man like that.
And even the conversation around KP, how would it be different if he was in a DeAndre Ayton role making $20 million a year, at least 20? Like, it's the fact that he is paid to be the second
Yeah, right.
second star on this Mavericks team, and he makes over 30 a year. That brings up these type of conversations that you have to be so picky because the expectations are so high when you make that type of money.
It's a much bigger, expanded, high leverage version of the Dwight Powell conversation we've had for the last like 5 years, right? When as soon as Dwight Powell gets overpaid, it's a completely different conversation than if he's making like $5 million or the minimum, or something